Good evening, everybody. It is July 1st. It is 11:39 at night. It's 2023. It is Saturday. Okay, so this is part 3 of chapter 1, Take Command. This section is called Why We Dwell on Negative Thoughts. Unfortunately, we are wired to think negatively. Early humans had one goal: survive. If they were always watching for danger, they could outrun hungry carnivores. Every day we fight for food, so they couldn't trust anyone outside of their nomadic tribes. Paying attention to danger helped them stay alive longer and pass on their genes. In other words, our instinct to dwell on negative thoughts is our brain's way of keeping us safe. This is called negativity bias. What that means is we tend to remember sad or traumatic events more than positive ones. Insults are etched into our memories, but we struggle to remember compliments. We naturally assume the worst in almost every situation. When our boss asks to meet with us, our first inclination might be, did I do something wrong? On an impulse, I called a friend I hadn't talked to in years just to say hello, and his first question was, is everything okay? He thought I might be calling to deliver bad news. This natural bias toward the bad affects our decision making too. Many times these thoughts start with I can't, I shouldn't, or I couldn't, and are followed with because and a self-defeating reason. Let's look at some examples of limiting thoughts below. As you read these, ask yourself which of these, if any, apply to me. I am a failure unless I do everything perfectly. This is an example of extreme thinking. When we see things as all or nothing, as if we will either succeed or fail, win or lose, without acknowledging the gray areas in between. I can't ask that person out. They'll say no and laugh at me. We call this focusing on imminent disaster. When we believe that disaster lurks around every corner, a single unwelcome event or piece of criticism can ruin our week. I messed up with my presentation and I'll probably get fired. When we magnify the negative and focus more on our mistakes than on areas of good performance, we overblow the reality of the situation. Other examples include being unreasonably hard on yourself because you got a B+ on your exam when you're used to getting an A, or punishing yourself because you said the wrong thing in a conversation with someone you care about. I should have gotten more done and I didn't. When we overemphasize should and compare ourselves to the ideal, we will always come up short. We berate ourselves for failing, even if we had legitimate reasons for not completing our to-do list, even if that list was unrealistic in the first place. I'm an idiot, and it's all my fault. When we box ourselves into our non-rational thought process, we make ourselves miserable. There is nothing objectively true about this statement, but because we might be frustrated or emotionally depleted, we believe these negative thoughts. It's not my fault. I'm the victim. Unlike the prior limiting thoughts, where we blame ourselves for everything. In this case, we blame ourselves for nothing. Someone else is always responsible if something goes wrong. This belief, even if true, can disempower us and make us feel helpless. It's not where we want to be. Now, Michael and I are not saying that we don't face real tragedy and injustice. We do. Very bad things do happen, and no one is saying we should wear blinders and deny the challenges before us. We shouldn't. What we are saying is that even in the worst situations, we can decide what we will think, and those decisions will shape our action or inaction. If we dwell too long on the tragedies we encounter, we may never move on. And if we don't move on, we may miss so much that is wonderful in life. This is where the power to choose comes in. Yes, we may be wired to think a certain way, but that doesn't mean we don't have any control over our thoughts. When we practice paying attention to our thoughts, we become attuned to how each one of us determined whether it's helpful in the given situation, and proceed with a thought that's more encouraging. Not long ago, a large nonprofit organization asked Michael to give a keynote talk. When he said yes, he felt good about it, but as the event approached, Michael regretted it. Why in the world did I say yes to this? I just don't see this going well. I've never given a talk on this topic to a group like this. And why did they ask me to do this? They should have picked a better speaker. As soon as Michael noticed these thought patterns, he stopped himself and said, "Wait a second. I've given hundreds of talks. Most have gone really well. This organization picked me for a reason. What do I need to do to show them and myself that they made the right decision?" Michael dug into preparing. He researched the group and committed to being twice as prepared as he might normally be. When the MC introduced him to speak, Michael looked at the audience, smiled, and began his talk with sincere, heartfelt energy. At one point, he could hear his inner voice saying, "This is going wonderfully. I should do this more often." As he thought this, he felt a renewed energy and a great connection with his audience. In that moment, he knew he wanted to give more talks in the future. Organizers told Michael his talk was one of the most inspiring they had ever had. Michael says he never would have succeeded that day if he hadn't shut down the undermining thoughts and replaced them with empowering ones. Okay, so that is all for part 3 of chapter 1. Take command. If you like this content, like this video, or comment below. Thank you very much, and thank you for watching.